Hello everyone, I'm coming to do the energy of the week, the reading for the week starting the 13th of April. Sorry, I've just been up the stairs, so my glasses are steaming up a little bit. I'm going to use my Healing Burnout deck as usual, and I'm going to ask, what are the energies supporting this week? What should we focus on in the next 7 days? All right, so this is an interesting one. The card that's coming up is the card called Worry. And we're basically being asked to stop worrying about the things that we cannot change. And this is a topic that I'm quite passionate about, especially as a clinical hypnotherapist. When I trained in clinical hypnotherapy in 2007, it became quite poignant, is the word I want to use, that we do a lot of worrying about things that we don't know are going to happen for sure. And I do that myself. I used to do that a lot more when I was younger. And this is what actually made me a good lawyer, is that I knew, I worried or I anticipated things going wrong. And because I did, I could find solutions to prevent bad things happening. But for most of us, when we're not lawyers, we worry about things, and the amount of time that we worry about these things compared to the actual impact that it has on our lives, if it happens at all, is disproportionate. So let me give you an example. Suppose you have to do a presentation at work and you've not done a presentation before. Public speaking is not part of your skills, and you worry about this presentation. So the presentation is going to take half an hour. Maybe it's a presentation in front of a board or a committee of some sort. And so you might spend, let's say, weeks, let's say 2 to 3 weeks worrying about that meeting, that presentation. Some of that time you're spent preparing, obviously, and that's more positive because you're actually taking action, and the more you prepare, the more likely your presentation is going to go well. But the amount of worrying that you're going to do is going to change nothing about the outcome, but it's going to suck a lot of energy out of you. So that's what I'm talking about. And then, of course, once you've done the presentation, for most people, and as I said, it includes me, or it used to include me to a certain extent, and I've changed a lot thanks to hypnotherapy and thanks to a lot of mindset work that I've been doing. After you've given the presentation, then you worry about the fact that you haven't done the best job, or that you've said something, and what if people thought that, and then you go on to another cycle of maybe it's not going to be weeks, but it could be days, where you worry about the impact that that presentation has had on everyone. Now, none of this you can control, right? You can't control the fact that you're going to have to give a presentation if you've been asked to do one, unless, of course, you duck out, but that you don't want to do that because it's kind of worse than just doing it. But what you can control is to prepare as much as you can, because we all know that preparation makes you a better speaker. And then once you've done it, rather than worrying about what people might think, if you stop yourself in your tracks and realize that the worrying itself is not going to change anything, because if you've made a bad impression, it's already done. And there is, I think, a Buddhist saying that recommends that if you worry about something but you can't do anything about it, then you should just stop. And if you worry about something that you can do something about it, then do the thing that you can do. And so you just kind of sift everything through this filter. Can I do something about this? No, I can't. Well, I'm going to choose not to worry about it. And on another level, what worry does, and that's something that I've been shown as more of an intuitive and energetic practitioner, is it creates an energy. It's a negative energy that you build around yourself. So the more you worry, it's almost like a prayer for things to go wrong. Now, it's not to say that if you worry I'm going to tell you the bad thing is going to happen to you more likely or whatever. But it's certainly almost like calling it in rather than if you decided not to worry. So what I do nowadays is that, and I still worry about things, I acknowledge it, I journal about it a little bit if I can. And after that, I decided to draw a line and I'm like, I'm going to think about something else because at this point, the worrying is counterproductive, or at least it's not productive at all. I hope this helps. But I also want to share something that happened to me at the early stages of my career as a clinical hypnotherapist. And I had a client who had cancer who came to me. And of course, the worrying was very intense. So we talked about all this, and she found it very helpful to be able to relax because she had very little control as to which way her illness was going to go. And in fact, she was told that if she worried, it would probably make things worse because it actually affects your immune system. And when you have cancer, your immune system is really important. But on the very first session we had together, when I was explaining all that to her, she said to me, but Ange, I have been raised to believe that people who don't worry are irresponsible and that actually worrying was a responsible thing to do. And I could see her point of view because that's how I was raised myself as well. But if you look at it from this new filter that either you do something about the thing that you worry about because you can do something about it, and that's a better option than just sitting here wherever you're sat and worrying about it without doing anything, and it just being this sort of cycle or loop, mental loop that you can't get out of. Because, of course, the more you worry about things, the more you dive into that energy, what it does is that it takes you into a part of the brain called the reptile brain, or some people link directly to the amygdala, which is the fear center. And the more you're in that space, the more it compounds and the more it becomes a habit, which then is quite hard to pull yourself out of. Worrying can be a habit and you want to break that. One of the ways that you could stop the worrying is by asking yourself a couple of questions. I'm looking at my watch regularly because I want to make sure that I'm under 10 minutes because I want to respect your time. So the first question is to ask yourself is it true? Is it true? So I remember when I lost my job as a lawyer, I had this huge mortgage on this house and I had 2 young children. I was a single mum, and I worry a lot about losing my home, which was a genuine worry, but worrying about it wasn't going to change the situation at all. As it turns out, in hindsight, very shortly after I lost my job, a couple of years, I had some savings, so I could, plan to keep my house or whatever. But the 2008 financial crisis happened, which completely crushed the interest rates. And that actually was very beneficial to me as a homeowner, especially because I had a interest-only mortgage. So part of the worry, I couldn't see that coming. I could only see the worry, and that's why it taught me a big lesson on how to suspend and think, okay, perhaps from worry, I need to lean into faith. I need to start hoping that something is going to happen that is going to help me through this situation. Obviously, you still need to help yourself. I'm not saying and that this is what sadly spiritual people have a tendency to do, or some spiritual people. I don't want to put everyone in the same bag, but then they say, oh yeah, the universe is going to provide and I don't need to worry about anything. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking more about being aware of your thoughts and what these thoughts have an impact, how these thoughts impact yourself, your mood, and generally your well-being. Because up to a certain extent, and I don't want to be positive in a toxic way at this stage, but up to a certain point, happiness is a choice. There are people who are happy in certain circumstances where other people are miserable. So a lot of it doesn't actually depend on our circumstances. And of course, I do want to carve out the fact that, you know, if you're in an abusive relationship, or if you're suffering from a terminal illness, or if you're in a lot of pain, all these things can absolutely impact your levels of happiness. I'm talking about more mainstream situations here. So that's it. That's the card for the week. I'm going to show it to you again. The card of worry. And so what happens is this week, the energy is supporting you to reduce the amount of worrying. And of course, given the state of the world at the moment, with so many wars being threatened, or so many countries threatening other countries, I'm not going to name names or point fingers, but you know what's going on. It's legitimate to worry, but is it going to really change what's happening to you on a daily basis? Absolutely not. So stop the worrying and try and focus on each day, or 1 hour at a time. You know, maybe it's raining at the moment where you are, or maybe it's sunny, maybe you've just had a lovely meal. Try to stay in the moment. When you're in the moment, it's much harder to worry. Thanks for your attention. If you think this could benefit for someone else, please tag them under this video, and I'll come again next week. Bye for now.